Complex. They don't have things in this area, but I didn't say I didn't want anybody else to come. No one will. So he keeps it maintained and keeps it up and does that. He didn't want
That's what I was referring to. I found that after we called.
Yeah, and I talked to Chris and
Talks about materials.
yes,
So I don't know.
this, you know, when this was this for the
I
plaque?
was like 21.
Yeah, but I mean, it was probably related to plaque. Rather than the preliminary,
I think so.
rather than the development. See, this is
I
consistent.
mean, they talk about lighting and
Yeah, yeah, that's really more
materials for lighting.
materials for the fences and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's more final plant stuff.
That's probably preliminary plat, I'm sure.
I'm surprised they changed then, jurisdiction not being able.
That's what I was referring to. I was just thinking that.
Yeah, no, that's more. The trick is,
So if they're.
you know, they're making this case, they don't have, so they don't really know. I don't taste the bullets, they got a clue. You know, sell them to developers. They might sell them all. So they can't.
Ray was saying she's back coming.
Back.
Ready?
All right. 1 minute. All right, it is 6 p.m. on Monday, the 29th. And I officially call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the town of Copper Canyon to order. The first item on our agenda, well, first, we do have a quorum. Yes, we've got a quorum. Thank you. Great, someone to speak. Our first item of agenda is a development update. Troy, are you prepared to deliver that?
Yes, sir, Commissioner. So just a quick update. There's several listed for the update. A lot of them have kind of stayed the status quo based on last time. So for example, Vickery has about 3 lots left. Boots Ranch is about 2 lots left. Copper Creek's got 5. And then Jernigan Estates, as you guys know, that went to council and was denied based on the development plan. So what's going to happen with that is we are now working on the agreement as it relates to the easement. And so there's kind of going back and forth between the attorneys to address maintenance issues of that detention pond. They've also come back to us and now they're going to separate the 2 ponds, which was, initially designed as, it was as one. And so there's been some changes there. So with that, it will come back to planning and zoning at the end of May. So I think that's around the 20th, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of what's the latest and greatest with Jernigan Estates. Of course, we're here with Copper Knolls Estates tonight. Williams Ranch is well underway. We did, Chris and a couple of us did a final walkthrough as it relates to the lift station. We've seen that thing go operational. So they turn the pumps on, we fill it full of water, watch it all function. So they are preparing their bonds as relates to the Victory Lane entrance, because that will be the town of Copper Canyon's, it's a public entrance, just right as you drive in off 407. So they're getting all the bonds teed up for that, the maintenance bonds, the 2-year maintenance bonds. So as soon as we get that, there's 1 or 2 other things that we got to work through, and then he'll turn that over to the builder, and they'll start building homes. So that is.
Can you
coming
tell
through.
us a little bit about the potential for the stoplight there?
Yeah, so we've been working with TxDOT over the past 3 to 4 months. They have a stoplight that has been engineered or is in process of being engineered at the corner of 407 and Vickery. So the folks that leave Vickery and or will be leaving Williams Ranch, there's going to be a signal light. So TxDOT, they'll have to go through the engineering process, then it will go through the vetting process, the bidding process. So our estimated guess is it's going to be constructed probably sometime spring or summer of 2024. I'm sorry, 25. Time they go through their process, but a light is coming and it's been approved by TxDOT. They just got to get it all teed up and ready to go. So it's funded. It's well on its way. So you'll have a signal light there at that intersection.
Great.
But that won't impact development schedule.
No.
Totally separate.
Yeah, it was never
Yeah.
assumed there was one,
Right.
that there would be one, that there were to be.
Yeah. So we finally got that on the books, and it's in the development process. So, or the engineering stage. The other piece, Commissioner, I wanted to update you guys on, if y'all recall, we had a joint meeting on April 15th as it relates to development. The task or direction we got from that meeting is to create a development review committee per se. Folks that are on that committee, Commissioner Kim, Commissioner Mitchell, Council Member Larry Johnson, and Chase Liebert is on that team, as well as Chris, our engineer. And so we met last week, and we are kind of we're at a point, and we met for probably an hour, 2 hours, and we concluded a couple different things. One thing that we did as far as next step that I think we can control is we're going to look through that checklist and really vet that checklist that everybody refers to during this development process application. So we're going to look at that. We'll potentially look at creating some type of mission statement, a draft statement for the town, to have the council look at that. In other words, what direction do you want to keep an urban feel, a rural feel, that type of thing. So we'll be kind of working on some of those things as we meet in the next couple of weeks. The other piece was they wanted the town administrator to kind of summarize planning and zoning meeting at the next council meeting. So it kind of keeps the council up to date of what type of questions were asked based on the items and action items. So it kind of creates that connectivity there as far as communication. And then from a long-term perspective, I think we had a lot of debate about this, is we kind of looked at our master plan, our engineering standards, and our ordinances. And I think we all concluded that all the dots don't always connect. Over a course of time and how Copper Canyon has grown, there's been a sense of that, well, we took this piece, we fixed this piece, but, we moved on. And so one of the recommendations from the committee, what is going to be to the council, is we want to hire a consultant to come in, because that's a very heavy lift to try to get all 3 of those elements to line up and to kind of really assess those and making sure they do from a long-term perspective. So that will be put in front of the council as a recommendation, and then they'll give us direction if they want us to put out a RFP for a consultant to come in and kind of look at that. And so they'll look at a variety of different things. And I think the committee will work on a scope of work and present that to the council, and then, kind of go from there. But that's the update from the development committee.
Good deal. Before we move on, I should introduce, or let him introduce himself. One of our alternates is serving tonight. Want to introduce yourself?
My name is Dane Custis, and I'll be serving as an alternate tonight. Here with you also.
And he's a construction expert, so don't give him any grief. Okay. He does know what he's talking about. And secondly, it has nothing to do with planning and zoning, but Lon Nguyen is here tonight from ESD 1 and 2. Maybe he's both, I don't know. But I think for all of you, you should be aware. Very exciting thing going on this Wednesday, May 1 at 4:30. They're having a pushing in ceremony at the Latana fire station, which is a very, for those of you who don't know anything about fire service, it's got a lot of tradition, a lot of history. And back in the old days when they had horse-drawn fire engines, you'd come back from a fire. Well, horses don't back up. So you unhitch the horses and you push the engine into the station. Well, it's kind of a tradition that's kept forward. So they're got a brand new engine that's coming in to replace one of the used engines, and they're going to have a pushing in ceremony at 4:30 on Wednesday. So everybody's invited to come and support your local fire service for what it's worth. Okay, first, next thing on the agenda is item number 3, public input. Citizens can make comments to the commission. We ask citizens who wish to speak on agenda items to sign in on the sheet provided at the table at the back of the council chambers. There's a 3-minute limit for each speaker. Pursuant to state open meeting laws, the Planning and Zoning Commission cannot discuss or take action on items not posted on the agenda. So I'm going to ask you if you want to speak on one of the agenda items that you hold off until we have a public hearing. But in the meantime, if there's any public input that's not on an agenda item, please let us know and we'll let you take the podium. Nobody's.
That one sheet, but I think.
Yes, yeah, that's Norman Jordan. And you want to speak on the agenda item? Yes, okay. So that's one of that. We'll move on to item 4, the consent item, which is approved the March 25th, 2024 minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Do I hear a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I'll motion that we accept the minutes of Planning and Zoning Commission, March 25, 2024.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
A unanimous approval. All right, so I'm going to indulge my normal whim and change the agenda items a bit here. I'm going to move to have action and discussion item number 6 before we go to the public hearing, so that in the public hearing, the public will have heard kind of what our thoughts are as well. So we will have the public hearing immediately after this. So I would like to pull forward the discussion and consideration. We won't necessarily make a recommendation before public input, but at least discuss it. So we have on us, in front of us, the development plan for a piece of property on the corner of Bishop Road and Orchid Hill Lane. Our town engineer has gone through that and told us that it meets the standards, but just in excess of paying attention, I thought what we might do is do what we've done before, which is go down through 2.4D, which is the requirements of the development plan, just to satisfy ourselves that everything is there. Yes, sir. Yes, you can have mine if you'd like. Anyone else want a large one? All right. So under 2.4 D, the development plan must have certain things in it. And the first one is a right-of-way on or adjacent to the development site describing street widths as well. I think that's on there. Designation, size, and points of all ingress and egress. There's only one entrance off of Orchid Hill Lane. So that's on there. One of the questions that we have is there's a barn ditch across there. We're assuming you're not going to make a big dip in the driveway. You're going to put a culvert in there and so that the drainage all works. Okay. It's not on the chart, but that seems kind of a given. There are no pedestrian walks, malls, or open places, unfortunately, but it's a small development. Location, height, and type of all walls, fences, and screening devices. Those are on there. I did have one question. You have a very low retaining wall kind of in the midst of the property. It's all flat. What are you retaining there?
Well, we're having to raise the site a little bit, because the site is very, very flat, and in order to drain properly to the detention ponds, we're having to raise the site a bit.
So it just sort of drains.
Yes, so.
Okay. All right.
Then obviously the fence will go over top of that, just straight through.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a 1 to 3 foot. It's a very low retaining.
Mhm.
Site data summary on the chart to include, and for those of you who are in the audience, there's a block on here called site data summary. That's what we're talking about here. It has the gross and net acreage of the project, the number of proposed lots, the percentage of site coverage, and the anticipated schedule of development, which on here shows third quarter of 2024, assuming normal process here and the creek don't rise and all that stuff. And there is no parking loading spaces, so that's covered. There is no open area or plaza area, so that's covered. A note stating the requirements of open space plaza parks, there is no requirement, so we don't need that note. There is no outside storage, it's number 8. Number 9, show the following related to existing or proposed buildings. There are no existing buildings on this site, and there are no proposed buildings on this plan, so there's nothing to cover there. Graphic depictions and statements to the effect that all parking and loading not applicable. All building lines are shown, they are. Location, size, height, type, and orientation of signs and lighting luminaires, whatever that is, those are all on there. I believe we've got a stop sign or 2 in there. Representing resilient street signs, facings, material compositions, and colors. Again, those are not applicable. No location trash dumpsters, there are none. Types of servicing to be used, paving, that's on here. So you've got a little diagram of a cross section of a street. Easements on or adjacent to the site labeled and dimensioned. We do have those. Proposed and existing fire hydrants. There are 2 of them, one on the northwest and one on the southeast. Fire lane widths and all curb radii adjusted to the fire lane label, and they are. And spot elevations must be shown at all critical points, including but limited to the edges of the pavement, curb returns, building corners, drainage paths, etc. Directional flow arrows and all flow lines and all existing draining structures must be included and described. So we do have the locations of potential drainage ponds. Obviously, at this point, there's no hydrology that's been done, so you can't say exactly how big they need to be, but there are 3 locations designated for drainage, which seems at this point a good thing to plan for. One of the things that's noted on here is just how flat this property is. I mean, it's like from 559 feet to 562 feet. I mean, over the whole, it's flat as can be. There are flow arrows on the streets showing which way the water will flow off of the streets. One of the other requirements, it's not listed here, but is a requirement that we confirm the owner of the property. And we do have the Denton CAD confirmation that it is owned by Picasso California Construction Corp., which we have our representatives here tonight, and they will be available to address questions in the public input or from the commission. So before we move to the public input, what other questions and comments do I hear from the commission?
I just have 2, just going back to 2.44 on the fence. On the type of fence, so it says split rail fence with columns. Are they stone or? Okay.
Can I get you guys to come to the podium?
Yeah.
When responding?
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Selma.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Elimar Bracho. I'm with CCM Engineering, the firm that is working with this development.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Lozano from DBLX. It's part of the group that owns Pegaso California Construction Corp. That I explained before. I'm happy to answer whatever questions that we could have.
So asking questions so they can say it in the microphone.
The type of fence, so it notes split rail fence with columns.
Yeah, we're designing it to be brick columns.
And you answered the retaining wall question earlier. So then the other one was, as the chairman's mentioned, it's a pretty flat property, but are you comfortable with about a 2-foot drop? Is that enough to really get the water moving there?
Yeah, we're following all the minimum standards that the drainage require. We have 1% on the ditches and we have 0.5% on the roads, trying to make everything flow the correct way to the detention ponds, and so we could don't have any runoff issues or flooding issues.
It's certainly not a Jernigan.
Yeah. There's no flow across this property. It's not like it's on our floodplain or even in our plan, so it's.
What's interesting, it's going both directions.
Yeah.
To top pond and to
Yes.
lower. Yeah.
Mhm.
So just a quick follow-up with the fencing. And so you said it was a rail fence stone columns. Is that gonna go all the way around the perimeter, or will it just be facing the main
Shows it.
orchard line? So,
Well, initially we were thinking and do it in the front of the property. And then usually what the individual lots have, they have the wood fence around, since all the lots were gonna be back into the other properties, they will have the wood fence.
okay,
That's what we had planned.
So I have a question of the retention pond. So having driven by there several times, I noticed that the well, and I don't know what goes on in the back because I haven't seen that. But there's a lot of water up against the street. And so I was surprised to see a retention pond further away from the street because the water is going to flow in the direction of the street. It's not going to flow back up. So explain to me how that's going, like what's going to happen there, and then how the people are affected, in that lot that is going to be sitting on the pond. Like if that overflows, it's going to come down, right? So
The property, when you follow the original contours, I don't know, you probably do know, behind the property, there's a huge creek that is part of the lake, right? So this property actually have three natural drainage. So one is going up northwest, the other one is going up northeast, and then around half of the properties is draining to the front. That's we have, and this is actually the deepest pond. We have it located in the south east corner lot 12.
Right.
And this is the one that is gonna collect all the runoff from the property. It's gonna be detained. So it would not increase the runoff towards the street. And then the two ponds in the back are really shallow just to collect it's not even half, it's a little bit less than half that is running towards north, and then we will collect those there.
So
I don't think they know that the amount of water they need to put in a pond. They just know they need a pond at this point.
right, so but I'm just the direction that the water would flow, it just puzzles me. So you said it's flat.
It's very, well, yeah, look at,
So, but there's a little bit of an elevation.
well,
right?
there will be flows in different directions once they get the streets in there, right? Because the streets are slightly elevated with the hump in the middle, so there'll be drainage off the streets because that's more elevated than the front of the property.
Yeah, some of it's gonna flow north. If you look at some of the high
Exactly.
points,
Okay.
they're like in between 17 and 18, and those lots are gonna flow up
To the back.
north, and then the other lots are gonna flow down south.
That's what the little arrows in the
Okay.
streets show. So they do show that
Yeah.
something is flowing north.
I see that. Okay, I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I just wanted to ask that. And then up against the retention wall in the front by the street, what is right behind there? Like, because again, the water's going to kind of gather there.
If you notice on the development plan, we have a 20-foot drainage easement all along the property line. That's where we're gonna place the ditch to collect all the runoff and send it to the pond, so that way it won't go across the property line to the street.
Is that part of their acre?
Yes, that's all inside the property.
Yeah, the big one.
The detention pond as Kim was alluding to, on the south east corner, is there gonna be some depth to that? Do you guys know if it's gonna be, 4 feet, 2 feet? Because it looks like the others on the north side are pretty flat.
The others on the north side are gonna be very shallow, and I don't think it's gonna be over 2 to 3 feet. This one in the north, with the preliminary design that we did, it is probably gonna be 5 to 6. In the one in the south.
Right. Is that something you guys will fence in, or is it gonna be part of the lot 12?
We're planning to be part of lot 12, but due to the depth, we have to fence it
All right.
But inside the lot.
inside the lot.
It's a side
Mhm.
lot, correct.
So back to the pond on the southeast corner, right? So if that overflows, where does that water go?
Well, if that overflows, the water is gonna go to the street.
And there are two breaks, if you look at close to the entrance, one on each side of the entrance. There's one of those big drainage sinkhole things on each side of the street. They're engineered in Windsor Street.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's, that was engineered when the street was built in concrete.
Mhm.
So anything that flows to the street is taken care of already
Okay.
in the street drainage plan.
Cause I see puddles.
Yeah, but they only last for an hour or two. and then-
Okay, I'm just,
Yeah.
and that wasn't even a whole lot, okay. Okay.
The chairman would know he lives next door.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
surprised I have so many questions, huh?
Yeah,
Get me
no.
fired up.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, other questions from the commission?
Where will the temporary road be to get into the construction site? Will it be off of Orchid Hill? Or
Yeah.
How will,
they have to
how will
have a
it?
construction.
And
Is that
construction,
Entrance is, or you got another separate construction?
we have it on the Orchid Hills, yeah.
It's on.
All right, and you're aware of all the requirements for the protecting the side of the town street and everything. We've had other developers kind of trash our street while they're doing construction. We're not gonna have that happen.
Okay.
All right, other questions?
Just another quick question, as far as what type of, are you gonna have the cluster mailboxes, and if so, are they gonna be located in the front, the back, or?
Yes, he's got that marked on the red, on the chart at the entrance.
Right on the entrance.
Cluster mailbox on the, at the entrance.
There we are.
Okay, I have a silly question, but the big oak tree in the middle, that's staying there?
That's on another property next door.
Oh, it's on it, okay.
One of the unusual things about this piece of property is that the two lands, there are two separate owners of that huge field.
Right, and
But
there's.
they have
a
no
driveway.
fence in there.
Right, okay.
So that, I believe that tree is on the owners next to it, which is Janice Jennings at the big house.
Yes.
With the big fancy driveway, that she shares that pasture with the Bishops.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
It is a lovely tree.
Yeah.
I
I
think
like the
it's-
tree with-
Yeah,
So we have 18 lots. And then it says one HOA lot. What am I missing?
that's for the streets.
That's for the street.
What is that?
We were asked to make the street an HOA lot when we went through the concept plan process.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're owned, it's owned by, the streets are owned by the HOA.
Right,
They gotta
okay.
maintain it. The homeowners don't own it, the HOA.
That would
Mhm.
be considered a,
Private.
okay,
yeah,
And that's
this is private.
okay.
All right, well, we can always come back with more questions later. In the meantime, I will, it's at 6:25. I will call for the public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing for the purpose of hearing any and all comments and consider a recommendation to town council regarding Copper Knoll Estates Development Plan allows the development of approximately 20 acres to allow for the development of 18 single lots and one HOA lot located at 1700 Bishop Lane, Copper Canyon, 76226. So as I said, at 6:25, our first speaker, I have a note here from Norman Jordan. If you could take the stand.
I have more questions.
Those are fine. No, it's what we're here for. And state your name and address.
Norman Jordan, 260 Orchid Hill Lane. My new neighbors, I guess I'm looking at here. So, and as I think most of the frontage along there. So I'm literally directly across from this property. So my questions are more around the visual appearance. The trees on Orchid Hill, do they stay? Are they, is it clear which ones? I mean, I'd really like to know. So how many stay, how many go? There's some pictured here, but is that representative or is that actual? Okay, and the roadway stays the same as it is today, Orchid Hill? Okay, and the material of the retaining wall there, because that's like, I think, staring me right in the face. What is it?
Since it's a small retaining wall, then there should be stone retaining wall, we see it on the.
Okay. It's not gonna be bare concrete.
No.
Okay. And then the fences. Will there be fences facing Orchid Hill along that road inside the split rail for each of the houses? Will their backyards have fences that face Orchid Hill?
It will be the split road with the columns.
But that's it.
That's what-
Then the rest of it will be open to their houses?
So I think he's asking if there's gonna be a privacy fence in addition.
That's what I'm asking.
Can the HOA allow somebody to build a privacy fence inside the split rail fence?
Yeah, the proposal is to just keep the steel fence and the HOA could be open to allow a privacy fence there. But the way it is right now, we're just saying it's still.
That's not a requirement of this development plan. I can see you want to know, but that would be on their preliminary plat, which would be the next phase down the road.
Okay. Can I in advance put in my input?
Absolutely.
They need to look the same and they need to look nice.
Right,
Not all wood fences are created equally.
agreed.
Okay. And water, there was a discussion about water as one of those big drainage swell or ditches, whatever you want to call it. It does handle a lot of water, so I don't think there's a lot of risk. But will there be water coming across Orchid Hill into that? Or there's one on the other side, on the north
There's three
side?
along the north side of Orchid Hill.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I think those are my only major questions. So again, I had more questions than comments, but so when would the next phase be for making sure, because the aesthetics are a big deal for me.
What is your schedule for having a preliminary plat?
Well, after we get our approval today,
Mhm.
we are ready to submit, in 2 weeks, we should be submitting civil plans before the final plat.
So assuming their preliminary plat meets the requirements of our engineer, that would be at our next meeting.
Possibly. Remember, this still has to go to council on May 13th.
Yeah, this,
Um,
May 13th.
yes.
Before,
So based on their direction and their approval or denial, then.
Yeah, that's
it'll move-
true.
It'll move to the next phase.
we're not the
Yes.
final say.
So there, potentially you guys could see it again, I believe, on May 20th. Would be y'all's next meeting.
That's 1 week earlier than usual now.
Right, because of the holiday. Yeah,
Because of that holiday.
so again, presuming that the town council, assuming we approve this and the town council approves this, then they would come back to us with that preliminary plat that would have that kind of detail on it.
Including like visual pictures
We would hope so.
and materials, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are my only
You
questions.
can do pictures of the kind of renderings.
Yeah.
For the retaining wall and the fence and the HOA. Troy, at what point do they bring in the draft HOA agreement? That's only final plan, right?
Yeah, it would come all the way at the final plat.
Right.
So,
Anyway, but they can,
But that's where they would address the privacy fencing.
yes.
Standards, yeah.
they can address that at the preliminary plan.
Is it still changeable at that point if it's not acceptable?
Well, staff will review it and it'll be our recommendation to the developer to make some of those things up to our standards. So that there's not putting a stone wall out there and we're, clear cutting all the trees and those type of things. So we'll have a lot of discussion with the developer as it goes through that process. Certainly,
But I understand the split rail, but I'm talking about any privacy fence inside of that.
any secondary fence.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you have 4 lots, you could have 4 mishmash looking fences.
Yeah, so I think that would be a useful thing for you all to define in your HOA agreement or in your building standards. That, if someone wants a privacy fence, it's got to be on the setback, not right up against the split rail fence. I think your concern is you got a split rail fence, then you got another one fence right there. But if they want to put a fence up by their swimming pool that's 35 feet away. from
Well,
something.
yeah, I'm assuming that wouldn't be wood, but whatever.
Right. Yeah, this person on lot 12 definitely is gonna, they got a big lake in there. They're gonna have a pond in front of their house. So anyway, so I think that's a good thing to define going forward.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ted Stranzik is the next on our list.
Ted Stransik, 1020 North Berry Trail Court. I just have a couple of questions about the drainage. I went out and took some pictures right after the rainfall. Pass them down for you guys to take a look at. And that's I think basically a 2.5-inch rain is what happened over the
Actually,
weekend. So it was even worse.
I have 4 at my
Okay,
house,
okay.
which is
I had 2.5 at ours.
right down the street.
I walked through that
so-
in temporary, so-
The concern that I have is in lot 1 versus lot,
One,
um,
that's on the,
12.
on the southwest corner.
Mhm.
yeah, the southwest corner. It appears that the water there is a lot deeper than in the southeast corner. And you have, and obviously the flow is going to be that way, but where is the water going to go? You're flowing it towards the street. Is it going to go in those grates
They should.
by the street?
There is a grate right there.
There is a grate
Yeah.
right there.
Because if you look at the grate, when the water was there this weekend, there's still a lot of standing water there that never makes it to that grate. So the construction end of this, how are you going to ensure that all that drainage gets to those grates? Is that,
The property is not gonna drain directly into those rates. We have a drainage easement, all of the properties is 20-foot drainage easement.
so you're going to send it all the way to the east?
No, we're sending to the north, but it's gonna be collected on a ditch. And that's gonna be sent to the pond.
Yeah, it'll be the pond all the way on the east side. Okay, all right. Because, so the grates will play a role in drainage.
Well,
When it's
it
all
comes
said and
off
done.
the street more than anything else.
Okay. Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else in the public that has a question or comment? Any questions?
Along with what you're saying, according to these elevations here, that I'm awful at directions, okay, so the southwest corner is 559. The southeast corner is 560.
Yeah, 1 foot.
How are you gonna make it go up top?
Oh, well. Yeah, that's it. Water seeks its own level, so I'm not too worried about that. It will go.
It's gonna go to the 559.
Yeah, it's 559.3. So a lot of the, I think that the answer to your question really is that when the property is developed, there's gonna be houses all over here, and a lot of what now ends up kind of getting to the street actually gets to where the pond is through this drainage ditch that they built in along the front and along the sides.
So let me have a quick question as it relates to drainage on the perimeter and the front part of the property. Are you guys gonna put, when you talk about your 20-foot drainage easement, is there gonna be like a drainage swell? So you have the lots build up a foot or two, whatever that number is, and then you have a fence, and then your neighbor, the neighbor to the west. Are y'all gonna cut that in on y'all's side or along the fence, so you have a drainage flume or bar ditch or something like that? Is that kind of the plan?
I'm sorry, can you put it in?
So your 20-foot easement, it's not gonna be flat.
No. it's
You
not.
guys are gonna have a little bar ditch per se, that'll
Yes.
go,
Mhm.
and it'll catch it as it runs off the, say, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then it'll push it to the south, as your flow arrows show, correct?
Mhm.
Correct, okay.
If I'm reading this right, though, it goes. That lot 1 on the west side is 558, and then it drops all the way down to 556 by the pond. So that's a 2 foot. To the chairman's point, the water is gonna find its way down there.
Yeah.
It drops 2 feet.
And when you're talking inches here, not feet. And also the other thing is, yes, there's a big lake in that corner in the
All right.
southeast corner across the street, but it's not very deep. You walk the cows stand in it, it's up that far on their hooves. So if you take a 1 foot deep thing there, all of that water will be in a relatively small pond. Right? So because it's to your point, it's a big area of green but it's that deep. So make it, as she said, it could be 4 or 5 feet deep. That's gonna hold a lot of water in a relatively small area.
So I'm wondering too, do you plan on doing anything aesthetically and, like with a fountain or something? I'm just thinking like of standing water in somebody's backyard. Right, so the mosquitoes and things like
I'll
that.
probably put an aerator or something.
Is that, okay, so there's some sort of something that, but it will look nice, because it could be then just moldy and, out, right? I mean, yeah, you don't, huh? Yeah, I mean, that kind of,
For this, the main function of the pond is gonna detain the water while the storm is flowing.
right,
That pond is gonna drain into the storm system.
right,
Usually the calculations are allowed for it to drain in 48 hours, that's gonna be empty. After the.
right, okay.
So
The difference between a detention pond and a retention pond.
See, I'm learning so much about all this stuff, yeah. And so then I guess my next question is, would it be the HOA's responsibility to keep that maintained? Okay.
All right, other questions, comments, statements? All right, it is 6:37, and I will close the public hearing and reopen the discussion here among the commission. Have we heard any things that can give us rise to any further questions? No. All right, then I'm sorry, Troy.
I got one question. I just want clarification on the perimeter fence. So everything along Orchid Hill will be
Split rail.
split rail with stone columns. And then everything on the west, the the west, the north, and the east will just be split rail with no columns.
It shows columns on the chart.
Right.
With a split rail, you have to have columns of
Right.
some kind or posts.
I heard stone and brick.
But she said brick. First she said stone, and then she said.
Another consideration. Correct. But to your question, Troy. We need to put a solid back wall on that. This is by agreement with the previous one.
Okay.
We consider that on the back, so far.
On the north side?
Yeah.
Yeah, we consider that because of the previous owner request that when in our contract, in our private contract. But on the sides, we consider that we could be using the wood fences on each and every lot.
Okay. So talk a little bit about the north side. Is that a solid wooden slat type thing?
Yeah, it's in the requirement, it says it's a 100% brick wall. So we're proposing something as efficient as possible in order to meet that requirement and meet your requirement as a city. So it will be not as open as the regular front fence, but we'll do our best to comply with what the previous owner required and try to be a solid wall.
Right.
And the reason for that is just privacy for the next piece of property that is in that side. It's going to be a solid expense for us, but it's something that we already knew.
All right, so before you go, question, what is your expected lot value or house value when you're all done? What kind of price houses are we looking at here?
Thank you, Commissioner. We're planning out, I mean, regarding on how the market is right now around, comparing with the other developments that have been done in the last year and are being done in the next 6-7 months. We're aiming at a 450K per lot as our sales price out. We don't have a particular price for the homes because that's something that won't be in our hands. We will be selling individual lots to mainly custom builders and end users. But if you follow a market number, and we have a minimum of 5,000 square foot, if I'm right, 5,000 square foot per dwelling, I think I mean at least at 1.7 to 2 million on the construction plus a lot. So we're talking about a whole value of at least 2.5 and up. That's our goal, but that won't be in our hands because we will be selling just lots, right? But we will be assuming the responsibility to filter and pre-select the custom builders that could be allowed to build in there, just to maintain the atmosphere of the subdivision.
So we were talking previously about the big oak tree next door. That land is 2 acres minimum zoning. So right on the west side of this is 2 acre zoning. So I think the point I was trying to elicit there is that these are not tract homes in the sense of, you know, cheap dollar homes. These are going to be high-end homes, hopefully that will have the same cachet.
Correct.
As the fantastically beautiful home that's right across the street from them.
Yeah.
The other important point here for us to recognize is Bishop Lane is a private road. It is in Copper Canyon, but it is a private road, so we really don't have any say over it. And it will become essentially a private driveway, a very long private driveway to the property at the back, which I really don't know much about. It's the Bishop family that's been there since time began. But it's right there on the lakefront. And so a big part of their property is Corps of Engineers. So it's not clear to me that property will ever be developed similar to this. It's probably going to continue to be a lakefront homestead back in the back farm. Yeah, up on the other side of a big family. Oh, other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess we're at the point of actually making a decision. Do I hear a motion to approve or disapprove as you choose this development plan? Anybody?
Yes, I'll motion that we advance this development plan to town council.
You recommend that we go to town council? All right, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right. It's unanimous, so congratulations. You move on to the next Jeopardy step. Let's see, do we have any other business that we need to do here? Nope, that appears to be it. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Any opposed? Nope. Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming in, appreciate it. Very nice to meet some of my neighbors that. Yeah, that's good.
Comments about my house?
Yes.